two definitely work. So within the next 30 minutes, you want to pay very close attention, most especially for also those who are working, because the easiest way to understand something is to understand the whole system as a flow. The reason many of us struggle is because we're trying to understand Agile from a concept of user story. Oh, I don't understand epics. Or I'm having a problem understanding what is the meaning of technical depth. And then we're trying to pick this one part from the other. And because we cannot situate it in a bigger concept, it becomes very difficult for us to quickly have a valuable conversation. Now, what separates anyone when you take an interview from other people is your ability to sustain a conversation. Your ability to sustain a conversation is when you can be talking about how work is planned at the team level and you connect it to how these requirements are collected from the portfolio level. But if everything you know is just how you do estimation and all of that, then you realize that the way you communicate is limited. So we want to look at what actually happens when we are implementing Agile product delivery. How can you understand the concept of Agile product delivery? If you're able to master the concept of Agile product delivery, number one, it's more like you have like a study outline or kind of a roadmap that will help you to be able to implement the entire flow. So when you do like the Scrum certification on all of that, what we try to do is that we try to teach you in part. We teach you about the foundation of Scrum. We teach you about how to manage teams. We teach you about how to manage teams. About that, how to manage teams. We teach you about how to facilitate events. We teach you about how to run PI plannings and all of that. But you must be able to know what is the framework that holds all of these results. Because when we are making decisions at the level of the company or at the level of the organization on implementing Agile, we are not paying attention on running events. We are paying attention on a system that benefits the entire organization. So what is that system that benefits the entire organization? I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can go through this. And I want you to pay attention. If you have a question at the end of the day, I'm going to open room for questions. So understanding Agile product delivery. So the first thing that helps you to understand is how can we visualize the entire process from start to end? So everything that happened in Agile happened within this framework. Now you realize that everything converges at the bottom. Right? It's not like there's a circle in the middle that's separated from each other. No, everything converges right down here at this phase. It means that from where the organization is talking about what is their next 5 years, what is their next 10 years, they have had a plan to say that Agile product delivery is going to be part of what we do. From where they start talking about their business strategy, what are we going to do this year? There are many jobs that are going to open in January is because there are organizations that are having conversation this year to actually improve on their business strategy, to actually look at how they can take the organization to the next level. And one of that way to take the organization to the next level is to try to start creating a corporate vision that is more transparent. I think when Coach Brenda did a retrospective, many of you like, oh, this is what we want to see. This is what we want to see. And we created a change management committee to start looking at how can we improve on the vision of the company in such a way that it can be more agile. But then when we look at the vision of the company, everything we want to create right here is on the concept of business agility. It's on the concept of business agility. So everything an organization wants to create is based on business agility. Now, there are two words that are very important here, business and agile. Business simply means that our point is not about getting processes right, getting metrics right. Our point is how can we be flexible as an organization to make sure that we continuously deliver the result that we need? How can we be flexible as an institution to understand that we can continuously create the result we need? So Agile is not just all the organization need to do or have to do. Agile is more on how we interface a flexible system that can help support the traditional structural system of an organization. You will agree with me that there is no business that when they are registering, they start negotiating with IRS, or they start negotiating with their state that, oh no, we want to implement an agile process in registering our business. No, every business go through a traditional process. Either you want to be an S Corp, a C Corp, LLC, and sole proprietor business, all of them have the same structure. So Agile only come in as a system to boost the entire business value of the organization. So when you capture this, you understand that when you're talking about, oh, I help an organization become Agile, you probably will be limiting your knowledge to think that is the whole organization that you want to see to become Agile. No. When corporate vision are enacted, there are things that cannot be moved, that cannot go under Agile. For instance, you cannot ask, for instance, you cannot ask the board members to go Agile. No, there's a structure and there's a benefit pattern that created that organization and must remain the same. It doesn't matter how Agile the organization go, these people cannot go Agile. Now, the second thing that helps you is to tell you that what? Agile is a mindset. Agile has less or nothing to do with structures and systems. It's more about how people think. So if we look at this entire organization, the whole question is, how do we think, or how do we create our vision in such a way that it has the capability of incorporating shift in the system? So in order to fulfill that mission, we need to create a strategy. And that strategy can be, okay, we need to be able to implement Scrum. We need to be able to implement Scale Agile to support our business strategy. So the impact on Agile is on business strategy. And that is why it doesn't matter how Agile an organization is, you are still going to have people up here that tells you that we don't see the benefit of Agile. You don't have to force them to see the benefit of Agile. The goal is for you to be able to look at the value that the system called Agile, so Agile is a system, the value that the system called Agile is bringing in here. So most often we tend to focus our attention on people. Oh, my manager is very toxic. They don't want to accept Agile. They're anti-Agile. No, nobody is anti-Agile. What we are not able to do is that we are not able to show them how Agile can make their work easy. We are now focusing on explaining the process of user story. These people are not understanding user story. They know nothing about this. But then if we could tweak our mind to focus on how does the entire Agile concept bring value? How does the entire concept bring value? One of your most powerful selling point you can ever have in an interview, if they ask you about what is your experience with transformation, or what are you going to do within your first 1 week, your first 2 weeks, your first 30 days in a business, is to be able to tell them that when we talk about Agile, it has less to do about processes, it has more to do with people. So you must be able to understand who is who and the value and the position they hold in that company and the knowledge that they hold. Now, based on the level where they are, you now can do a presentation that can show them where they are and how Agile can help them accomplish their vision. Now, business operates not just because we have goals and corporate vision. Now, we can have a vision in this company, and the vision is that we want to be able to develop 5 product lines within the next 2 years. Now, this is a vision. The vision is very authentic. And then leadership change. And someone comes in and said, no, I don't buy this. I want to go back to the root. I want to go back to traditional way of implementing. And you see that because the new person that comes in doesn't buy the vision, we start laying off 1,500 people. This is how people are laid off. Why? Because there are people who comes on top and what they want to fulfill is their agenda. So when we understand that this is how business operates, then it helps us to know that implementing Agile is 80% people and 20% processes. So until we tap into the reasoning of the people that are at the top, being able to capture what they want to achieve as a vision, then, and also what they think as a business strategy, is going to be very difficult for us to convince them that we can help them with Agile. Now, helping an organization with Agile has nothing to do with, we need to do the roadmap, we need to do the release planning and all of that. Until the people up here are so up and they craft a product vision, it's a product vision that now encourage us to be able to implement Agile. So when you understand this, it helps your conversation on Agile and how you can effectively pull conversation with both your interviewer and management on what is the entire benefit of Agile. This is a shift that many of us need to do from just sticking on the fact that, oh, I help my company facilitate events, I'm good in running retrospective and all of that. This is good. But how do you reflect? If you want to actually become so much valuable in your company in such a way that you cannot be kicked out, whenever you do a reflection, try to look at how is this impacting, number one, the corporate vision, excuse me, and how is it impacting, number two, the business strategy as a whole. If you can think this way, then you can effectively contribute to the product vision. Those who empower the product vision are the higher manager. Your manager here at this level has been given this vision. And to be respectful to many of them, they know nothing than just how to drive this product strategy. So everything they are looking into is how can we complete this work on time, right? But then why? Because they don't have the Agile mindset. So they are going to put you everywhere possible to make sure that all you do is to drive your team to create results. They're going to do everything possible to limit your thinking on matrices that happen at a team level. But then that is important for them. That is what is important for them. That's what they get paid for. But you with the Agile mindset, and you have been able to learn from such a session like this, that all of these move beyond just what happened here and move forward to these, you can strike a conversation and you can have someone at the level of management say, hey, we need to have this conversation, and invite you to the table. I've seen people that have been able to bypass their manager, not because they want to, but because a strategy or the way they explain something. This is very important if sometimes you have an opportunity to do a feedback, to do a retrospective, or to even facilitate an event when you have some of these top leaders on board. The way you communicate. Do not think that everything in an organization is about, oh, it's Agile. How do I shift this Agile? How do I shift this Agile? Your strength is to constantly reflect on what I am doing. How is it helping corporate vision? How is it helping business strategy? Now you realize that most of the Scrum Masters actually just stop here. Their goal is just how do I preserve my work? How do I help my team? After that, they don't pay any attention. Now, if you get into any organization and you want to build the right knowledge to take over, you must be able to understand what is the corporate vision at this level, and how is what we are doing right down here at the team level contribute to the corporate vision. This is a must-ask question. When you can link both of these together, you realize that you start having more better conversation at the level of business, which is leadership, at the level of management, which is product line, and then at the level where you are implementing at your own team. Now, when you understand this, the second thing you want to understand is the intake of work in the entire process. It doesn't matter if you're in a Scale Agile environment or in a Scrum environment. There's a way in which work come in. It's not just about, oh, the product owner collect requirement from the customer, it comes to the team and I implement. No. Before the product owner even start collecting this requirement, there is business negotiations. There are business negotiations that have been made that are beyond the understanding of the product owner. That's why they can kick out a product owner today and bring in someone tomorrow, and they're still able to pull through that vision. So the way business operates, number one, if we say we want to implement Agile, what is Agile? Agile is about continually exploring what we are doing. We don't need to have a full picture. We are in a mindset of continuous learning how the work that we are doing can become flexible and can benefit the entire organization. When we capture this level, what happened is that if you can continuously explore, then it's possible for you to realize that, oh, I don't have the full picture. So I also need to create a system that continuously integrates. Now, because I'm continually exploring, my system must be set forth in a way that I can continuously integrate. And if you can automate this process in such a way that you don't have to manually do this, this is what we call the concept of DevOps. So DevOps is not just a tool, it's also a mindset that helps us to set up things in a way that we are moving forth and back throughout this process. Now we are continuously delivering to our client. And because it's a continuous process, we are also aware that the client can kick back feedback right here to say, oh, this wasn't integrated rightly, or the client can say, no, we missed out the point of collecting data. So it's a whole flow of information from front to back. That's why we talk about technical debt. That's why we talk about bug fixing. That is why we talk about how do we retrospect and improve as a team. When all of this is done, then we can now have what? Release the product on demand. So it's still possible that this product is released and in the market and it still bounce back to the first level. That is why we also need to create room to constantly support our customer. Now, all of this process is happening for you to effectively help an organization to implement Agile. There must be a way through which all of this is collected. Just imagine that we have about 5 collection points at the level of funnel. What's going to happen? Mismatch of information. So we must have a unique funnel that is constantly bringing in this information in here. So when information comes in here, all the big ideas, any idea everyone have is supposed to be deposited in a funnel. And this funnel is, you have all the people that have the power to pull the decision. Someone asked a question the other day. What is the title of a business owner? What's the title of the stakeholder? They don't have title. That's a funny question though. They don't have title. When we talk about business owner, when we talk about leadership, when we talk about stakeholder, it can be any title. It simply means that these are people with the power to make decisions. So let's say if you're a Scrum Master and for some reason you are more like you're more like a shareholder in that company and working as a Scrum Master, you are a business owner. Why? Because you have the power to also make decisions on what comes in or what doesn't come in. So business owner and stakeholder is not like, oh, somebody really high up there. You can still have somebody working at your team as a developer, and then they are a business owner right down here. So never make that mistake. And that is why when you treat people, you need to be very careful. There are people with just the way you treat your team, and that is how you're going to exit. Why you don't? Because you don't know that some of the people that come in to sit as developer is because they are the eyes of the company. They have invested so much money in the company that they need to go down and take a team role and be able to understand how business is being run, so that they can know how to push the right people up the case and how to get the people with the wrong thinking off. I think we have seen people that have been able not to be conscious or be emotional about their work, but to relentlessly improve on themselves, how they have been able to move from just being a Scrum Master to being an Agile coach at the enterprise level, right? Many of you will have to talk to Nicole on how she was able to be selected from just being a Scrum Master to sitting at the enterprise level. Now, it takes just beyond you facilitating, it takes the right mindset. Now, one of the things which, if you're around Nicole and you're going to learn, for people that don't have eyes, you realize that she's only upset. She has that open heart. She freely pours out. So this just to tell you that result is not just so much about perfection and trying to make everything great. It's also about creating room. And that is why one of the things you need to be careful, especially when you are in an agile space, is just like driving the right information. The right information sometimes can be a reason why you're kicked out of a system. You're not wrong, don't get me right. But you need to understand that creating result is a balance of learning when you are right and you still seek to stay quiet. Now they notice that, okay, this is someone who have the right knowledge and we can bring them. Because if at any point T, what you need to do is to prove yourself that you're right and these people need to know that I'm right, you're missing out the leadership aspect in you. So you realize that you are due for promotions, but you cannot be moved because they understand that at the level where decisions have been made, we don't need rigid people because it's not made by emotion, it's not made by principles. Sometimes business is going to accept a business venture that is unprofitable for them just to maintain a relationship. But they know that in 2 years down the line, this is going to turn into billions of dollars. But if you come in and you're like, oh, no, we cannot accept this, I don't care about the relationship, they can bring you in. Now, when it comes in at the analysis space, when it comes in at the funnel, there's nobody at the product line. There is no manager here to talk about what comes in. It's about business owner. Managers start coming in right here. People who are hired only come in when business owners say, you know what, I think you can go ahead. You guys go talk about this. And now this is where you need to also be sensitive. Oh, my manager says, when we're talking about looking into the corporate vision and looking into the business strategy, it helps you to bypass just what management is talking about just how work is being organized, and you're able to see beyond that. Right. And at this level, you start having people at the program level come in to picture the work and then push it down to the level where the team start implementing. And now, what you need to be very careful at this point is that these people that are constantly pushing the work to management, right, they're not in the point of decision making. The way management is going to push our work to the team is based on the level of understanding of management. So don't feel like because any requirement comes in, it is perfect. No, the reason we're having so much issues at the team level on we having to always kind of go out of scope, we having to always reprioritize, is because management doesn't invest enough time to learn the system and to learn how to push work here. So they come in here, they're so much in a hurry to move these things to the backlog, to move them into implementation. And then when you're having a genuine conversation with those who can do it, you realize that this wasn't really the right way. So you notice that those who understand leadership, and from this level, they start engaging those at the team level to come in and assist them, make sure that this entire process is right. And the monitoring and how work get in progress and how it get released, it's a function of what happened here. If what happened before what get to your team level is 40, there is no way you can try all type of fixing matrices that you start. If you don't come back up here and fix it, you're making a very big problem. Now, how does work get to the backlog? It can be the program backlog, right? Let's consider how does work get to the backlog. When we talk about backlog here is when the managers have sat down and they consider that this is what they want to do. Now, what comes in most often at the level of epics, right? When we talk about initiative most often are driven by business owners. But one thing you need to understand is that there is a whole misconceptualization of epics, futures, stories, and initiative. It varies in different organizations. Trust me. Some even go to the extent of using the term teams, right? So you need to be able to kind of look at how this fits into the system where you are engaged. But the flow is initiative, which is a collection of epics driving towards a common goal, driving towards a corporate vision. And then we can now break it down into epics. Epics are large body of work that can be broken down into a number of smaller tasks or story. Now, in the middle of epics, we also have futures, right? You realize that in most of the cases, future is also confusing use in the space of agile. Why is it confusing use? Some people place epics below future and some people place epics after future and make it confusing. But then if you look at the real definition of epics, it's more about large body of work. And we can now break this into smaller parts, which are called futures, and we can now break it into user stories or into tags. Now, you must understand that user story and tags operate at the same level. So a tax is not, it doesn't come under a user story. What come under a user story is a subtax, and what come under a tax is a subtax. So all of these operate at the same level. Now with that, you realize that if you want to look at the whole structure on how work should flow or how you should be able to teach your company on how work is organized, it's now important for you to start at the level of initiative that are big ideas or bigger goals that we want the company to accomplish. And this is broken down into large body of work that can be implemented by different line of businesses. And these different lines of businesses can choose to break down these epics directly into a story or tags, or can create another aspect, another year called futures. This is what happened at the PI planning. Epics are taken and they are broken down into futures. And then before futures are broken into stories, and then stories into subtags. So this is as simple on how you can explain this. Now, the reason why I feel like you should not capture future in this process, which is more good for you to explain, right, and put it really down here, is because there are people that have been working in an environment and all they knew was that futures are going to come first before we have epics down here. So they're looking at futures to operate over here. So because they are looking at futures to operate over here, and you start telling them, okay, epics should come before future, it becomes a very big argument. Why the people that, oh, I know that, oh, I've seen that, oh, I've been hearing that, now I'm confused, I don't know what to think. Now, if you want to operate in the space of agile, you must have a growth mindset. What is a growth mindset? It's not about what you've been hearing, it's about how you can soundly process information to drive the result that you need. How you can soundly process that information. Now, when you understand this structure, then you can now go ahead and focus on the user story. Why? The user story is the implementation unit of every project. If we fail to break down the work that we are implementing into user story, or if we are not able to capture what we do into the user profile, it becomes very difficult for us. All right, let me explain one concept that is going to help you understand, most importantly, how business collect requirement, and that might kind of get you to understand exactly how to explain most of this stuff if we had to kind of shift away from the concept of agile. Now, there's one thing you need to understand. Whenever you're launching a new business, which is about a corporate vision, there are a couple of things that we need to take into consideration. One of them is called the ID client profile. Right. So we look at the ID client profile, which is the reason why we implement work at the level of story. When you look about the ID client profile, what are you looking in their profile? Who they are. We are looking at their age. We're looking at where they live. We are looking at what they like. We are looking at their income. We are looking at We are looking at their hobby. We are looking at even their educational level. We are looking at their even neighborhood. We are looking at where they go to. All of this is called empathy mapping. You want to understand your customer. So this is how we start driving how to do product design. We start by going so deep to understand the customer. What are their age? What's their income level? Everything before we now choose the design. And that is why at any time we are about to still create this product, we need to go back to the information that we gathered to start thinking and talking like them. Right. So when we think about how a project design, the first step on project design is called let me see if I can get another slide. So we look at product design. These are the products that you're implementing at the team level as a Scrum Master. The first step is about empathy, which is what I just highlighted. We talk about empathy. Okay, empathy simply means that we're trying to capture who need it, why they need it, who are they. There's some product, okay, I want to say that if you go to, let's say, in one of the, with all due respect, in one of the, let's say, very, very suburb community in India, and you want to start marketing iPhones there, you're wasting your time. Or you go into the Amazon where the people don't even need technology and you start selling them iPhones. It doesn't have any use for them. So when we capture the empathy and understand all of this, the next thing we do in the line in terms of product design is that what? Problem analysis. So these people with this kind of characteristic we have gathered, what is the kind of problem they are solving, right? For many people, you realize that a problem that surfaces in a neighborhood in one way, that same problem will surface in another neighborhood in a more different way, right? So when we get a problem, we start generating what? Idea. We start thinking about ideas that could solve the problem. When we think about the ideas that could solve the problem, we do what? We do our prototype. This is where we do the designing. Prototype is also what we call the MVP. What's the MVP? When we talk about MVP, it's not like we need to get it out faster. It's simply as how do we get it out without spending so much money, but we can still be able to get genuine feedback from our user. If you look at most of the software, they always create what they call beta version. So the beta version is to help us understand like, oh, let's try testing and see how people react to this and see what are the failures that are coming up, what are some of the troubles that are coming up, then we can better work on them. And then when we do an MVP, we always have to test. And when we test this is even the time where we start focusing on building the product fully. So this is also very important for you to understand that the different stages on how products are designed. And this is why when you start building, you must go back to the user. Why? Because that is where we start gathering ideas on how to build product. It starts from empathy, capturing every bit about them. So when we do in the user story, even the business owner can understand because that is the thinking they have. So when we communicate in that language, it's easier for them to understand. All right. Any questions? I'm going to allow everybody to unmute themselves, but you want to pay attention if you have a noisy background and those who are working and still being part of the class, pay attention to make sure that you understand when to mute yourself. Oh, yes, Yamo.
Hello, Coach. Thank you very much. I couldn't understand clearly when you were talking about the problem solving, and you said that what is the problem they are solving, and I couldn't understand who you refer when you say they. Is it the company or is it the what's that customer, the end customer?
So when I started by talking about the client profile, right? Okay, I want to consider that you are the person we are evaluating. So with the empathy approach, what we want to do is that we want to be able to capture every scenario that concerns you, where you live, what are the challenges, your neighborhood, how you go to work. We want to capture all of that. So when we capture that, we can find out the problem that you need to solve. So we are evaluating the problem from the business perspective, but what is the problem of the customer? It's not the customer analyzing the problem, it's business analyzing how they can help the customer solve the problem. Sandra.
Yeah. Good morning, Doc. I just wanted to find out when we're talking about the prototype, the MVP. So when they push that MVP out with the minimal requirement and functionality, can you classify that as a technical debt in the future for the organization?
It's not a technical debt because it's intentionally pushed out it's for testing. Technical debt is not when we don't talk about technical debt when we're designing MVP. MVP on its own is already quality compromise, so we are aware of that. So we can consider that technical debt. Technical debt comes in when we are fully aware that this needs to go out directly to the market for consumption. We are fully aware of the quality and what the client needs, but we still choose to hold back some of the future. I'll give you an example. Let's say it's the end of the year, and out of a sudden, iPhone 17 or 18 just come out. Now, Samsung to compete might rush to release, let's say, Samsung Ultra 30. And they are going to actually intentionally hold back some future just to make sure they hit the market. They are going to bypass some certain testing just to make sure they hit the competition. So they are aware that although we are sending it out, it has some compromise in quality. And then they can record that maybe after some time. On the other side, you look at technical debt, it might be also intentional sometimes, maybe not intentional. You are rushing your team members, you're putting so much work on their table. So they decide now to create a shortcut on how to meet up with that work, where they can shortcut some of the quality tests they need to run and still get them passed through. So you will see that they are completing work, but when it actually gets to the fee, you realize that normally, let's say a car that normally has to come back on check service after 6 months, they're bringing it back after 2 months. They're like, okay, what's happening? What are we missing? Now you start realizing that, oh, although it passed this, they did not pay attention to double check this and allow it run for the number of periods it was supposed to run. Bruno.
Thank you.
Good morning, Doc. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for this, Doctor. I just want to ask this question because I want to know. I heard you talking about uh, the product being bouncing back to after going back to the the DevOps team. So how is it possible that with this product that has gone all through these processes of automation, unit tests, and UAT regression, then how is it possible that it can go back after going through all these processes?
Yeah, there's no perfect system. So anything can happen. There's definitely no deeper deeper explanation. It's just as you can drive into BMW and buy a car today and you start driving the next day, it puts you on the middle of the road. So are you going to say because it passed through all the system, you're not going to take it back?
Right.
But they have proof to show that all of this validation were done. We did our test drive, but it's still fake. So it's possible. It's just a product. Products are not that perfect, so they can still fail. And that's why we must always create room to support our customer when we release it. If not, you lose business.
Thank you, Doctor.
Any other question? So I want to assume that everyone understands how requirements are collected. Now, this is the foundation for you having a conversation at the level of interview, which means we need to shift from just looking at it as, oh, how can I define A? How can I define B? To understanding the entire process. When you understand the entire process, number one, you can drive the interview conversation to be easier because everyone at level of leadership likes to talk about how business is being done up there. But if all you do is just to answer at the basic level and stay there, they keep asking you basic questions. So sometimes you must learn this to take the conversation to go meet them. So I'll try to upload this as early as the next few hours. So if you want to take time to go through it and to understand it and to put it in your own word, to have conversation at the level of your teams to fully understand this, then you can do it. Is there any other question that is not related to this? Yes, Sylvia.
Good morning, Doc. Good morning to you. My question might look stupid, but I'm just thinking, how do you start taking conversation to the portfolio level when they have not asked you that question?
Okay. Now, they don't need to ask you questions. You need to ask questions that generate the interest of those who need the answer. So if you have a conversation with your PO and say, look, I noticed that the way requirement comes in, there's something we can do better about it, and this is going to help our team avoid XYZ. If your PO doesn't understand, your PO will have that conversation with another higher manager. When the higher manager asks like, oh, this is what this person was asking, they will invite you on board. So it's not like you going up and try to find your way and ask questions. No. Focus at the level of your team. Now, there's also one thing that happens. When you focus on being excellent at the level of a team, the system is automatically going to create a way that management is going to listen to you. We have one of our team members. Out of a sudden, she was invited to facilitate a whole company retrospective. And that is when upper management started reaching out like, oh, we did not even know. Now, she wasn't there to like, oh, I want to facilitate this. But just because she's at the level of a team, making sure that she drives the right energy, what happened? The system, that's what I started by talking about this morning. The system has a way to either promote you or put you at the same spot. There is nothing you need to do apart from just being yourself, apart from just being you. When you're you, you'll be surprised how much, how many people are going to reach out to you. I think a couple of weeks back, someone from the U.S. Small Business Bureau reached out to me. We are looking for coaches. So when I found you on the LinkedIn, I thought you could be a good coach. Now, I'm not advertised as a business coach for small businesses or so. This is how you can command energy and people find you. We've had people in this community, people just reach out to them for like jobs. Oh, I thought you would be a good fit. Not because they apply. Why? They apply the right mindset. And for many of us here, when we are trying to apply that mindset, but the negative energy around us will not permit us to do that. And sometimes, and also very important, this is going to help a lot of people in here. It's not all the time that you're not having interviews that is your CV. No. If we've taken time and gone through your CV is the last thing that will help you not to get an interview. But many people just think that so long I'm not having an interview, there's something wrong with my CV. Most often, there is something wrong with you. Most often, you're not commanding the right energy. What's the right energy? Most of your day is set up on the first thing you do in the morning. If the first thing you do is wake up on a call and start talking about other businesses, forget about results that are aligned to your career. There are days, a couple of days back, I woke up on a very wrong note. I think I shared this. Right now, this is someone I normally respect and I can pick a call, but that day they came with so much energy that the whole day was messed up. Why? That's a mistake of getting on the wrong energy. So sometimes when results are not going the way you need them to go, it's a reflection moment for you. Sit back and channel that energy. I'll teach you a secret. You know, the people from Japan and all of that, they do a lot of meditation and all of this stuff. And you see, that's how results are commanded. If some of you have watched the movie called The Secret, that is how results are commanded. Results are commanded by principles. Sometimes you might not even have a resume. I know someone, the resume was all messed up. They could not answer even a single question, but they're on a government project. Someone said, you know what, I'm going to help you. They even showed them, gave them all the answers they were put there. Even when they did not answer anything right, like, we're still going to get you there and train you. So what about you? So you must be able to understand that result is not just all about what comes from me. It's also about the energy and the mindset. And now there was no way that this lady could go out without result. I remember when we started the community, it's like, okay, no, there's someone that I want to pay for their certification. I've seen that they don't have money, so let me pay for this person's certification. Now, this was somebody, she wasn't having an interview, she wasn't at the level of applying, but she could be able to say, this person is so helpful in this community, let me pay for them. They're able to understand that result is not just all you know. The same thing we're teaching everybody here. It's not all about what you know. It's about genuinely going through a system. Even when nobody is not paying attention, you can still do it. Coach Catherine can attest. They have laid off even all the permanent Scrum Master in her job. Even his manager was laid off, but she was still there. Now, if you look at the track record, this is someone that has served in this community for more than 2 years. And she doesn't complain. And the whole meetings over and over again, just to make sure that people go and get right on the interview. So there's definitely no way that she's going to be laid off. Why? Because there's a service that is speaking on her behalf. So we must understand over and over and over, life is not all we see. Life is beyond. There are certain things that don't go with your emotion. If you can just follow the basic advice we're giving you, you'll get the result. Secondly, before I go to Joy, there are some certain people, if you realize that this person is having so much result, all you just need to do is to respect that person for the result that person is commanding, and you will get the result. It doesn't matter. It might be your spouse. It might be someone below you. If you can just respect that person for the result that, if not for anything, for the result that they are commanding, you realize that you get the result. Yes, Joy.
Okay, thank you. I know someone asked a question and you answered based on as if the person is working already. So I want to know, how can you channel this as someone who is still interviewing to your advantage during an interview? Because this is kind of high level for me.
When you're interviewing as if you have been working for 5 years. So if you're interviewing as if you're still answering theory, then you're making a mistake. You must always put yourself on your resume. Does it show that you have never worked? No. So you must answer as if someone is working. So I think what you want to do is to rephrase the question to say, how will I answer this question in an interview if I were to be asked directly. So if you can ask that directly, then I can be able to help you.
Okay. Okay, so what questions do you think that an interviewer can put to me that reflect what you taught us today?
They can ask you a simple question is, how do you help your team stay on result?
Okay.
Or how do you help your team become performant? And then you say, okay, when we're talking about performance, most often we think about the bend down chart, the bend up chart, but you must understand that performance is more from the business and the corporate vision. Because if all we are doing at the team level is not contributing to the goal of the business, the vision of the business, it doesn't help us in any way. Because everything we do at the team level must align to what business needs. So what I do as a Scrum Master, apart from focusing on my performance metrics at the team level, I also constantly double check with higher management to see if the result we are creating is creating impact at the business level. So you have been able to communicate beyond just like, I use my bend down chart, I look at my velocity chart, I see if, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does make sense. So how do you now incorporate the customer? Because what you just said, it makes a lot of sense, but I see that you're talking more on the corporate vision, the business,
the customer is already within the corporate vision.
Oh,
the corporate
okay.
vision is to satisfy the customer.
Okay, thank you.
If you communicate like this, the business goal is to satisfy the customer. So you must not necessarily bring in the customer in the middle of the conversation.
Thank you.
Mr. Richard.
Sorry, Doc, I was about to lower my hand and then you called me up. The question I had was about the elements of product design. Are they the same as design thinking, or they're different?
They're the same as design thinking. Yeah, so it's like the foundation behind any product we see out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sidonie.
Oh, sorry, Doc. I was trying to unmute myself. My question is around MVP. So my teams are currently building an application from start, and there haven't been any mention about MVP. I wanted to ask, what are some conversations started, or how can I ask questions around MVP to even see if that's something that they're considering? And is MVP done in every environment to gather feedback?
All right, perfect. So your team might be building that product from scratch, but it might not be a new product. So it might already have a lot of organizational repository they are building up from. So in that way, they don't have to do an MVP. Most often, MVP come from new product or newer version that are unique that we need to test if this works.
So this is a new application unique to the company, like first ever done.
All right, then what they definitely are doing, they might not call it an MVP, but they are going to still run that. So it's not necessarily come up as, oh, we're working on an MVP. But when you understand the entire concept, you understand that they're going to be leveled to like, oh, we're going to do our first live. First live is to test if this is working or not. All right, so you probably might not really run it as an MVP. And most often MVP, they will not like, oh, this is an MVP or so. But just the fact that it's the first product, and so now you might not have the chance to contribute at the level of the decision where we are talking about what should we get out on this first release to validate it. So in that way, you might not have much to contribute into that.
So are they assuming it hasn't never, maybe it has been mentioned in a different way, like you said, but how do I start a conversation around that just for my own understanding if there's something that that's in the product vision? What kind of questions do I start asking about to my PO, for example?
You don't have to ask any question. You just have to observe. And if they are kind of doing their first live, you can just follow on. There are no questions you need to ask to understand if it's an MVP or not. So you just need to constantly follow what is the product roadmap, what are some of the features that they're building. If you look at the product roadmap, now you can be able to like, in case you want to ask any question, you can ask them like, okay, are there some other features they planning to add in future or so? But since it's a new product, when they did the product design is going to capture the MVP. They will not want to invest in a very complicated system when it's their first test.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. I saw a question on the chat on what is CI/CD and how do you use that to help your team value? I think I explained that for those who actually miss out that concept of CI/CD. When I was explaining about about how products are built from start to end, this concept is CI/CD. This is the concept. It's about continual integration and continuous deployment. So we can continuously explore, collect requirement, integrate, and deploy. So the whole concept of CI/CD simply means that you help your team hold the mindset that we have to build incrementally with the notion that we can add on value. This is where we talk about vertical slicing. So if we're not thinking about vertical slicing, then we're not going to be talking about continuous integration. So it helps your team drive value because your team understands that we are building incrementally. So we must know points at where we integrate the result. If you're working in cross-functional environment like PI environment, you must be able to cash out what are the different points where we integrate results. I think one of the questions, I don't know if I've answered that already. If not, I think it's going to be in the next video. How do you help teams that are facing challenges with integration of their work at the end of the sprint, right? So the first thing is that they are not mastering the concept of CI/CD. They're not paying attention and they need to integrate. So the concept of CI/CD help you to put your team for them to understand the period where they must sync up to look at where to understand to integrate their result. It helps you to understand what type of alignment do we need in order to continuously deploy. If I'm done and team B is working with me and they're not done, we cannot integrate. So in that way, what's going to happen? We cannot deliver the value that our team needs. Sidney, your hand is still up.
I'm sorry, that's an old hand.
Okay. So CI/CD and DevOps, they're the same concept. Yes, Celia.
Thank you so much, Doc, for that explanation. I wrote that question when someone asked the questions that could be asked in an interview. So thanks for that.
All right. Any other question? I'll take 3 more questions and we're done for today. Yama, go ahead.
Yes, doctor. My question is that if you're gonna put me on hot seat so that I can.
Okay, yes. There are 2 people. I remember Mr. Bruno and Yama, they need to go on a hot seat and
yes. Thank you.
About themselves. Okay. Let's take our 3 questions and then we are going to have them. Great. Sandra.
Okay, thank you. My question is regarding the CI/CD, and you said that is in regards to vertical slicing. So I wanted to combine the knowledge and understanding for you to give me a clarity on it. So in terms of the vertical slicing, we are saying that at the end of the sprint, the increment that has been produced should be able to integrate with the previous increment that has already gone out, because every part of the increment should have part of what has already been produced before, so that they can integrate well and also when they stand alone, they can also function on their own and also function and behave the way they are supposed to behave when they are integrated with previous increment that has been produced. In this case, then do we determine that that increment has passed all testing and it is shippable to the customer in the CI/CD pipeline?
Yes. Look at vertical slicing as you cut your pizza, right? When you slice your pizza, they slice in vertical slicing in such a way that if I take out a piece, I can feed back that same piece there to make a hole. If I take out a piece, but then if I do horizontal, what's going to happen? I might probably go around. Maybe the middle, or let's say we do like a miss. Let's talk about a cake. If I slice cake into pieces of squares, I can take it out, I can feed it back, right? And if I'm missing one part, let's say I want to do one part chocolate, I do another part vanilla, I can build a component of vanilla and build a component and put them together. But if I'm doing horizontal, what happened? It's going to be maybe building one layer after another layer, after another layer, after another layer. And it might be difficult to integrate. Okay, let me bring it back. I think I'm a bit more confusing you guys there. Whenever we are building a system, the reason we call it an increment is that it can function as a unit on its own. So let's say we're building a cheesecake mixed with strawberry and chocolate. If I get a piece, I should be able to get a taste of all of the three, right? If I slice it horizontally, what's going to happen? I probably might just get vanilla, like I can say this is a vanilla cake. But if I go horizontally, I should be able to get that. So we look at all of that integration that happened in the process. So it's definitely not something really specific when you want to say, oh, CI/CD is when you pick this. It's the whole mindset. You cannot kind of try to separate one line from the other. It's a generic thinking.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Clarity now.
Okay. So if there's no other question, then I think Bruno and Yamo are ready for their hot seat today. So Bruno, do you want to go first? Or we do the concept of ladies before gentlemen? Let's follow the natural law of ladies before gentlemen. So
Okay.
within the space of, you have 90 seconds. So I'm gonna get my stopwatch, and the goal is within the next 90 seconds. Can you tell me about yourself? Your time start now.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. My name is Yağmur. I'm a seasoned professional with decades of experience in project, community, and event management. Before becoming a Scrum Master, I led Berlin Portal, fostering global connections through diverse conversations, impactful programming, and effective stakeholder collaboration. When the pandemic hit, the organization needed to transition from on-site to fully online operations. During this challenging period, I was introduced to Agile values and principles that proved instrumental in surviving uncertainty. Recognizing Agile's effectiveness motivated me to become a certified Scrum Master. My debut project, Host, focused on creating an application for flexible workspaces, collaborating closely with the product owner. We prioritized user-centric design and incorporated feedback, increasing user satisfaction and engagement. Following my tenure with Host, I was contracted by Dallas Support Life to support a developers team in crafting a business solution for transaction tracking in the medical equipment sector. One key feature that my team worked on was creating a transaction tracking dashboard. Acknowledging the intricate nature of data integration, I promoted seamless communication between the team and stakeholders. By stressing the importance of incremental updates and conducting regular reviews, I ensured early identification and resolution of integration challenges in the development process. My passion lies in guiding teams with agile best practices and customer-centric thinking to boost productivity and customer satisfaction. I believe this aligns seamlessly with your company's vision, and I'm eager to contribute. Thank you.
Great. That was 1 minute 53, but the reason I did not stop you is that your flow was so good that I wanted to listen to the end. So I would say you did it. This is the first time doing this, right? So you did.
Yes, yes, doctor.
Yeah.
This is the first time.
Your energy was great. Your confidence was top notch. You mastered exactly what is needed, and you incorporated the feedback that we actually gave in the last session. Except if does anyone have any other feedback? Yes, offline.
Hi, Amo. I love the flow, but quick question for you. Were you reading it?
Yeah, I didn't have time to actually, Yes, I was reading it. I was trying to hide that I was reading it, but I could see myself that I was reading it.
I didn't notice that though.
Yeah, I had you on a spotlight and I could watch your eyes and the consistency in the flow. So that I asked. But honestly, the flow is good. So if you could just practice what you were reading, I believe that you're telling me about yourself will really be great. So when you're practicing it, try to be more conversational, right? You didn't break at all. So someone that is experienced could really tell that you were probably reading from somewhere. But if you make it conversational, you realize that you can even interject some sort of, I don't want to say jokes in between, but the way you will flow, someone will be able to tell that, oh, you're flowing with me rather than just reading something to me.
That was a great catch.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that in that case, it's gonna sound also less robotic. I'm sure that sounds a bit robotic. It's less human now. I don't like it, but I don't have time also for that.
Okay. Any other feedback? All right, let's have Mr. Bruno on the spotlight. Okay, Mr. Bruno. So let's have you for the next 90 seconds. Tell me about yourself.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for this question. My name is Bruno Njok. I have 7 years experience as a project program manager and 4 years plus as a Scrum Master. Prior to, for me, becoming a Scrum Master, I was working on a developmental project that with other six organizations. It was very cumbersome. It was very cumbersome for me working with all these organizations because we're working in different countries. So I went to the internet, tried to research, and came in contact with the Scrum framework. I was able to use this framework that helped me to manage this project and also facilitate it. So the results were, the outcomes were very amazing. That's when I really fell in love with the Scrum framework. I decided now to enroll, and I later on took a certification. And at the end, I landed my first job as a Scrum lead in a company called T-Mobile. I was working in this company with a team of developers. I was helping them to build an application where customers could be able to track for their orders.
Bruno, your time is up. 2 minutes. So I gave you extra 30 seconds. The time is up. Now, my first feedback for you is the ability to manage your time. The reason why we're putting you on the time box is because Scrum is about event. When we say 15 minutes, if you cannot manage your 90 seconds, how will you be able to manage your team? So it's intentional why we say 90 seconds. So you must be able to know how to manage your time. When we're managing time, you need to understand what is important and not important. The first thing you want to think about result. Now you're trying to go step by step. What is the result-oriented approach you can use? My name is Bruno. I have about 10 years of work experience, and I've been in the Scrum space for the next 6 years. I want to talk about my most recent project where I'm engaging with a team of developers. We're building a very exciting software. We name it at the level of the team XYZ. And working with this team, I think one of the stuff I've been able to get is how you can really, really engage with your team to build trust and make everyone feel as a family. The same energy I'm bringing here, and that's the reason my contract is ending. I'm looking forward for the next challenge. So you need to be able to understand how to tweak this. If your transition is important and you realize it's a powerful story, hello, my name is Bruno, and I have about 10 years of leadership experience, proud to becoming a Scrum Master. I was engaged in a project that utilized Agile Project Management. And that's where I had the passion to dive in, take a certification practice. After then, I've worked with 3-4 other companies, but there's this one project that's close to my heart. I want to share about that. A project I work with T-Mobile, and we're building a centralized system that help customers to do XYZ. There was so much learning in that project. One of the first things I had to do, since I was their first Scrum Master, I had to really, really partner with leadership, help them understand Scrum, kind of do some teachings and help leadership really, and that really opened me up to the space of Scrum. So you can bring it from every angle. What you want to do is try to put yourself at a point where you don't just go with what you have written. Yeah, you can write it down. The reason you write it down is first of all to master it. Now, it's just like when you know a song, right? You know a song very well. Sometimes you can even sing that song and put your own lyrics in there, right? Like what they say, they do remix. That's what we want here. We want you to know it and then take copyright over it and just go like that. Yeah. So we must learn how to be conversational. It's very powerful. Yeah. Let's kind of shift away from just answering questions directly. Let's look at how it can be conversational. Now, this is one of the tricks I use for all of my interview. When they ask me a question, which I know is tricky, right? Someone asked me a question about, let's say, what's your favorite tool when it comes to project management? I said, okay, before I tell you that, let me tell you a story. Now, I joined this company and they were in the middle of trying to pick a tool of their work. And I was in the position to decide, which I could say, before then I was using Jira. I could say, let's go for Jira because I needed to, I could use Jira well. But it's not about what is favorite for me. It's about what is going to meet the need of the organization. And when we all evaluated what they wanted to accomplish, are they looking forward to evaluate metrics regularly? Then we can plan work in sprint. Jira can help them. It's more accessible. What are the metrics that they want to read? Would they want to also automate and run some other stuff there? We can start looking at DevOps. It provides a bit of more of that. But I would not say I have a favorite. My favorite is how can I help an organization implement? So I did not answer that question. I just play a scenario. So you must learn how to pull conversation. Tell me a time where you had to convince leadership to, let's say, adopt Agile. That's a very great question. But then before we get to that, I want to say that the key, most often we look at convincing, but the key has never been about convincing, because we only have differences if we look at stuff from two different ways. So the bigger goal, what I do, I don't convince. I meet all my leaders where they are, trying to understand what they are thinking. All of us want business goal. When I gather their information, then I use that information now to do a presentation in their language. And then we call talking one language. It's a business goal. It's not about me trying to say Agile is good or so. So it's about leadership. When you think conversationally, you realize that there are many questions, you answer them effortlessly. There was a time I was asked a question like, what is the time you need to take? You had to take a very a very hard decision, which you needed to, let's say, give a recommendation or advise that one of your team members should be let go, right? Now, that's a very tricky question. Now, I took them back to 2012. And like, okay, there was a scenario where I was the project manager, and I had to collaborate a lot with my communication officer, and which is a very key important role. But then after having several one-on-one with them, with the inability to effectively communicate our result to our stakeholders, despite how simple we make them to, I had other managers line talk to her, but we realized that the major goal of the business was more important. Despite the fact that she was good, we thought she was going through a couple of challenges. We put as much support as we could, but that did not happen. So we had to prioritize business objective over one of our finance communication director, and we needed to let her go. So you can use any environment to do that when you think about having this as a conversation. All right, everybody. I think that was the last question for today. I said that was the last question for today. The one that you're putting your hand up. Okay, ask your question, and that's going to be the last question for today.
Okay, please, just permit me. Mr. Efani, where are you based?
In Canada.
Okay. Is your number?
Doc,
Yeah.
don't worry. This a backdoor meeting. He wants to report me, but I'll report him later. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. I wanted to make sure you're the one. Okay. Thank you.
He can be in Nigeria and he can be in Canada. So
yeah, because someone is texting me with a Nigerian number. I'm like, okay.
Can take any of them. That's him.
And he's telling me he's going to report me. I'm like, okay, I like reporting. Okay.
I can validate that for you.
Okay. All right. I'm good now.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. For those in the 60 days challenge, enjoy your ride with Coach Gloria and Coach Caddy and Nicole. And for the others, I think we still have to put up the date for the PO training and the date for the ROT training for those who are interested to get enrolled, and also the date for the SPC. Have a good weekend, everybody. See you on the other side.